All right, so yeah, okay, that's enough of that for now. But there's other special glands. So these are exocrine glands, and they are part like special glands that lead to the surface of our skin. Mammary glands and ceruminous glands. So where are mammary? The mammary refers to the chest, right? So here we have the mammary glands, and don't worry, the pixelation is just for YouTube and Twitch. Yeah, the uncensored one is in the slides. But what we see here is that, okay, mammary glands, they produce, this is during lactation, especially when a woman is pregnant, and or postpartum after pregnancy as well. So this is what mammary glands, they produce that milk. So do men have mammary glands? Yes, we do have mammary glands, but the thing is that in the typical male, the mammary glands aren't going to be as developed because we didn't get the hormones like estradiol and progesterone that surge during puberty in females. So in a male, a mammary gland will be the size like maybe just behind the areolar nipple, but it's underdeveloped. So this is why when some people are into bodybuilding and they take a lot of anabolic steroids and testosterone and it gets converted to estradiol and other hormones that promote breast growth, this is why sometimes they actually literally grow additional mammary gland tissue that causes these puffy nipples because they start to build up that mammary glands. Yep. So yeah, men, the gynecomastia. And men, can they produce milk in very rare conditions, like things like sometimes men can get breast cancer. It's very, very rare, far more rare than women. But that's one thing. Like, all of a sudden, male starts lactating. It's like, okay, let's take a look and biopsy of that mammary gland because that's not supposed to happen. But yeah, so or even like when newborn male babies, I think sometimes it's colloquially called witch's milk. So males can lactate, but under a very, very strange condition. Yeah. We actually covered that next semester, so I have more about that coming up if you're hanging around for PHYL 142. All right, ceruminous glands. So these are very special glands, and where are they located? Well, this is a cross section of the ear. So we're seeing a frontal section and the ear hole, the ear canal. So this is the external auditory canal, and you produce cerumen. So cerumen is the medical term for earwax. So that's the whole purpose of earwax. It kind of makes it, well, depending on the type of earwax you have, but it helps it, or it's always a debate like, okay, do you actually need to clean your ears? Well, due to your natural jaw movements and daily life, like actually the earwax in your ear gradually works its way out. Maybe you can clean out this surface, but they often don't recommend using a Q-tip because that pushes it back in the wrong direction. But there's actually two types of broad categories of cerumen and earwax. So what we see here on the right is dry earwax, but some people have wet earwax, so they don't come off in flakes. They actually stick to a Q-tip if you did swab it that way. And the cool thing is so the wet earwax is sticky and smelly, and the dry earwax is flaky but typically odorless. I don't know who goes sniffing their earwax, but there is a reason behind that, and it's linked to what we just covered. So the cool thing is that this is due to just a small nucleotide change in one of the genes in your body. So it's due to just a change of one nucleotide in the ABCC11 or ABCC11 gene. Now the thing is that people with one or two copies of guanine at this position 538. So if you take the gene and count every nucleotide at position 538 from the start, you either have a guanine or adenine. So the people who have guanine there, they have wet earwax. The people with two adenines, instead of having guanine, they have dry earwax. So the cool thing is that it's also linked to apocrine glands as well. So the people who have like this wet earwax, they have more active apocrine glands that produce that sticky, wet, and smelly sweat. But the people who have this two adenines and dry earwax, they don't produce the same compounds and substances found in the apocrine glands of people who have the wet earwax. So they tend to have less body odor because they don't produce those sticky and smelly, or compounds that are sticky and smelly and can be broken down into smelly products. And the cool thing is that it's also linked to genetics, and different populations have different frequencies of these wet or dry earwax. So what we have here is A or G, so adenine or guanine. And the countries and regions that have yellow, this is where you tend to find the dry earwax. So this is very interesting. Like South Korea, like almost 100% of people there have the A. So it would be very rare to have wet earwax in South Korea. In Japan as well. And so the areas that have the dark blue, this is where you typically find the wet earwax. So it's kind of funny, like I have wet earwax, so I have like that. So I have at least one copy of the G gene. So if you've ever been to like Japan, I haven't been to South Korea, but if you've ever got to like try to use the deodorant from Japan, you notice that it doesn't work as well, and you can tell. And like if you follow people like J vloggers or people who like going to or expats who live in Japan, they say the deodorant doesn't work as well. And why is that? Well, if their deodorant is formulated for people who have less active apocrine glands with fewer of the smeller compounds, and because you see more of that dry earwax and that less smellier apocrine gland secretions compared to people who are from the US and other countries. Yeah. So if you have wet earwax, you probably have like the smellier apocrine glands than somebody who has the dry earwax. So again, this is why the expats always say bring your own deodorant if you're coming from the US to Japan and doing the JET program or something like that. But it's also showing you human genetics can vary, and I think this is a great example of how you go from molecule, and then you go from your cells and the type of cell secretions to tissues that produce these secretions, and leads to overall things. So even just one small change in a gene can cause a big difference in activity. And if you to do that, if you're like one of those DNA tests like 23andMe, they also tell you whether you have that wet or dry earwax gene.